In this video, we're going to talk about the primrose. If you've ever walked through a woodland in early spring and seen this just cheerful splash of yellow all over the ground, you've probably met this wonderful little flower. It's one of the very first blooms to show up, a real sign that winter is finally on its way out. So let's get to know this beloved wildflower a little better. First things first, that name, Primula vulgaris. That first word, primula, comes right from the Latin word primus, which means first. And that's just the perfect name for it, isn't it? Because this flower is a true early bird, one of the very first to pop up and say hello to the new season. So, here's what we've got on tap. We'll start by getting to know the primrose up close and personal. Then we'll take a look at where it likes to grow, before jumping into how you can grow your own. After that, we'll dig into its surprising history with food and folklore and wrap it all up with some really cool fun facts. Okay, let's dive right in. What exactly makes a primrose, well, a primrose? Let's take a closer look at what to look for. The primrose has a really distinct look. You can see how its wrinkly leaves all form this neat little bunch called a rosette right at the base. And from that rosette, you get these beautiful pale yellow flowers. Each one has 5 petals with a little notch in them and that lovely darker orange center. And because it's a perennial, it's the gift it keeps on giving, coming back year after year. And don't go looking for some towering giant. The wild primrose is a really humble, low-growing plant. It only gets to about 10 centimeters tall, tops. It really prefers to stay close to the ground, creating a carpet on the woodland floor, instead of reaching for the sky. Now, you might see some flowers that look kind of similar, like its cousins, the cowslip and the oxlip, but there's a really easy way to tell them apart. A true primrose has single flowers, each one on its very own stalk. Cowslips and oxlips, on the other hand, have their flowers all grouped together in clusters. It's a simple little detail, but it's the key difference. So, where in the world can you actually find this little flower? Let's move on and see where primroses call home. Well, it's native to parts of Europe and Asia, but it's especially common all across Britain and Ireland. You'll find it thriving in places like woodlands, meadows, and grasslands, often just tucked away at the bottom of hedgerows. And get this, it has a really long flowering season. Sometimes it starts blooming as early as December and can keep going all the way through May. And this picture just says it all, doesn't it? This is exactly where they love to be. They don't just grow one by one, they often create these massive, beautiful carpets of yellow, especially in clearings where a little more sun can get through. What a stunning sight. Feeling inspired to maybe grow some of your own? Well, you're in luck. Let's get into the practical side of things with a quick growing guide. To keep your primroses happy, the soil is absolutely key. They love fertile soil that drains well, so mixing in a little bit of compost is a fantastic idea. They prefer a slightly acidic pH, and this is important, they like partial shade. Remember, they're woodland plants, but they really appreciate a break from that intense afternoon sun. Now you look at this delicate little flower and you'd be forgiven for thinking it's fragile. But you would be so wrong. Primroses are incredibly tough. A healthy, well-rooted plant can actually survive temperatures that drop all the way down to minus 34 degrees Celsius. That is some serious hardiness, and it's exactly what allows it to be one of the very first flowers to brave the cold and tell us spring is here. Of course, even a tough plant has its challenges. So, if you've got them in the garden, what are the main enemies you need to look out for? Oh yeah, it's the usual suspects, really. Slugs and snails are probably your biggest problem. They just love to chew little holes in those wrinkly leaves. You also want to keep an eye out for aphids and spider mites, which can sometimes pop up in the summer. But there is so much more to the primrose than just its pretty flowers and its toughness. This little plant has a really rich history in cooking, folklore, and some pretty fascinating biology too. So, looking at this pretty flower, you've got to wonder, can you actually eat it? And the answer is a resounding yes. For centuries, people have used both the flowers and the leaves in the kitchen. The flowers are kind of mild and sweet, perfect for tossing into salads or even making tea. The leaves, though, have this surprisingly spicy, almost anise-like flavor, and they're packed with vitamin C. And the primrose is just steeped in folklore. I love this little tidbit from Ireland, where people believed that putting a bunch of primroses on your doorstep would actually protect your home and everyone in it from being carried away by fairies. Okay, now for some seriously cool biology. Primroses have this really clever system to make sure they don't pollinate themselves. It's called heterostyle. Basically, there are 2 types of flowers, called pin and thrum, and they have different structures inside. Pollen from a pin flower can only fertilize a thrum flower, and the other way around. It's like a lock and key system to make sure they mix up their genes. All right, to wrap things up, let's do a quick fire round of 5 fun facts you might not know about the primrose. All right, here we go. First, its presence can be a sign of an ancient woodland, which is a really rare and special kind of habitat. Second, it was the favorite flower of the British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli. Third, it's a symbol of eternal love and was even supposedly used as an ingredient in love potions. Fourth, it's a super important early source of nectar for butterflies waking up from hibernation. And finally, a fact so important we've got to say it again. Its name, primula, means first, perfectly capturing its role as the herald of spring. So, from its place in folklore and food to its clever biology and its vital role for wildlife, it's clear there is so much more to this flower than meets the eye. The next time you see that splash of yellow on a woodland floor, I wonder, will you look at this humble spring flower a little differently? Alright, that is it for this video, everyone. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.